Okay, I'm going to warn you up front. I'm going to try to talk about a lot of different things in a short amount of time. And really, it's more like drinking water out of a fire hose, but at the end of the day, it's just designed to help give you an idea about the things you should be thinking about along the way as you start tackling business succession, family succession planning. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk a little bit about the team of attorneys that we have here at Farm Bureau, talk about the services and things that we can help you and your family out with. But throughout the day here in the next 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about a lot of different strategies and planning tools that you have available to you. Now along the way, what I found as I went through school is that as people talked about strategies and techniques and new things, if they talked about them in a vacuum, I couldn't really understand it. I had to always find a way to apply what I was learning to what I could, to something that related to me. So that's what we've done here today. We're not going to talk about tools and strategies in thin air. We're going to look at a family case study, a very common situation that we see all the time. And we're going to look at how one family went about things and came to a poor result. And then we'll look at these strategies and tools through the eyes of their family and all families, and how you could avoid some of these common problems with some good planning along the way. So I am a member of this team of attorneys that we have here at Farm Bureau that is designed to help families such as yourself avoid some of the problems Rusty was talking about. That, over the next 15 years, 79% will transfer, and there's only a 10% success rate. Because at the end of the day, there's a huge difference between a planned transfer and an accidental transfer. Accidental is not pretty, and we'll look at that here in a little bit. But so with that in mind, Farm Bureau finds that this sets us apart from some of the other companies out there, the Nationwide, the State Farm. What I'm going to talk about are all part of Farm Bureau services that we can help out with. But they're not just Farm Bureau specific. Everything I'm going to talk about here today are things that everyone needs to think about and plan for along the way. So on this team of attorneys, we have myself. We also have Jim McCarthy. And Jim McCarthy is an estate planning attorney that's been doing it for about 40 years now, which is great. Every family is unique, and it's nice that he's worked with a lot of unique situations over the last 40 years. Now we have another attorney on our staff as well. That's that double threat. She's an attorney, but she's also a CPA. The thing we'll come back to time and time again today are taxes. So it's nice to have somebody on our team that's got that tax-specific background. Now here's the family that I see on a daily basis with my work in my private practice here at Farm Bureau. Situation, we've got a parent-child operation. We've got son Dan, who's one of 3 children, but he's the only one that stayed to work in the family business with his parents, Ray and Ruth. Now, Dan is married to Deb, and they've been working there in the family business for over 20 years now. Now, the other kids, they have their own lives. It seemed like once they got out of high school, they went their own direction, and that direction didn't involve the family business anymore. So they've been absent doing their own thing for quite some time. Now, whenever Dan, over the years, whenever he got the courage to ask what the future would hold for him, his dad would always assure him, hey, don't worry. Someday, son, this will be all yours. And here we have Dad saying that comment. And the picture's a little different than they probably would have hoped for. Now, we'll talk about estate taxes. And arguably, this guy right here has got a nice haircut. He's probably about 2 foot shorter with the tax laws that just got passed. We'll talk about that here, but something to look into. Here's how the story went. They didn't do the right plan. He made promises but never followed through on the promise. So what happened is Dad passed away. Now Mom owned all the assets. But Dad didn't worry. He figured his mom was going to live up to Dad's promises. He figured she was going to provide for him. So he continued operating the business until she passed away. However, we found out that when Mom passed away, she established a will. And in her will, she stated that at my death, everything goes equally to the kids. What we're going to do here in the next 40 minutes, we're going to talk about the difference between equal and fair. and how you can get to fair, because there is a huge difference a lot of times. You know, one of the services that we can provide is we will look at any of your current wills and trusts and see how they are given today's tax laws and your goals and this, that, and the other. Over 90% of those that I review state this exact same thing. At death, everything goes equally to the kids. Well, if you don't have a will, the state of Iowa has a plan for you, and that plan is this one right here. Everything goes equal. Well, what does equal mean? For this family, equal led to absolute tragedy. When Mom passed away, Dan inherited that 1/3 interest. But being a 1/3 interest holder in the family business makes him a minority holder in that business. He's sitting in the back seat. His brother and sister, they're in the driver's seat. Because they've got that 2/3 control. And maybe, you know, they were reading the New York Times article not too long ago talking about farmland values in Iowa, or who knows what it was. But they decided, you know what, we want to sell. We want to capitalize on this market the way that it is. And they don't have to sell it to their brother. And so we've seen this, and I'm sure everybody can point to a family that they've seen this happen to. So the situation, if they want to sell it, they have every right to do so. So here we have Dan and Deb and their family felt a little bit betrayed. Because here, chances are the business is where it is today because of that investment of time and energy that Dan and his family have put into growing the operation. So now they have a little show for their that effort. So here's a rundown of the whole family. And really, the legacy was lost here, which is tragic. But in the grand scheme of things, the community loses out as well. Because the second that business is sold, well, Dan and his wife Deb, they've got to find some other ways to make ends meet. And so that might mean uprooting the family and moving from Elkhorn or Harlan and moving over to Audubon, or maybe to Audubon, maybe to Omaha, or maybe to Des Moines to find another career path. And you know, this has been one of the major causes of the deterioration of small town America, which we love as well. So that's part of the process. So to set the stage for what I'm trying to accomplish here today and what we can help out with here, I've got a story that is not a religious story in any means, but the character in the story is the Pope, which is kind of timely. So the story goes like this. The Pope wanted to do more or less a psychological study on some individuals and just see what their viewpoint was and what they thought their day-to-day life was. So the very simple question that he wanted to ask all these workers on a blue-collar job site was this: what is your job? So the Pope walked out of this job site, thousands of workers doing the same thing. The first worker he asked the question to, the response was, I'm cutting the stone into blocks. This is a quarry, and these workers are going from stone to stone, making block after block after block. Satisfied with that answer, the Pope walked up to the next individual, asked the exact same question. This time the response was much different. This is the person that got it. They said that I'm on a team that is building a cathedral. So here's someone that can separate themselves out from their mundane, everyday tasks and take a step back and look at the big picture. And that's what succession planning is all about. You can't just focus on one aspect of your future. You have to look at all different things and leave no stones unturned. You know, what I find is that there are really four main obstacles that families face in doing succession planning. So we're going to look at how this family and all families can overcome these obstacles with some good planning along the way. So the first thing I'll talk about here are taxes and how taxes may come in and impact your strategy. But then I'll move on and look at another aspect of your family and your life is cash flow and future living expenses and other things like that. Because I've seen that sink businesses faster than anything these days. Then we're going to look at the most important aspect of the whole day, and that's how you can look at transferring the business to the next generation, but doing so in such a way that still maintains family harmony, keeps those family traditions and things like that alive. And then we'll talk about the next step, how you assemble a team of specialists